Twitch made a blog post and sent an email to its users that contained what some people, I guess, could construe as an apology. And while keeping things vague, they certainly aren't taking responsibility for the actual issue at hand. In the blog post and email to their users, they stated, "You're rightly upset that the only option we provided was a mass deletion tool for clips, and that we only gave you 3 days notice to use this tool. We could have developed more sophisticated user-friendly tools a while ago. That we didn't is on us. And we could have provided creators with a longer time period to address their VOD and clip libraries. That was a miss as well. We're truly sorry for these mistakes and will do better." So basically that sounds kind of a little bit of like a oops, my bad. And also a little reminds me of that Gillette commercials, like where they were like, "Men, you can do better." Well, Twitch, you can certainly do better. And here with his take on this is Sam Tall. Sam, how you doing?
I'm good, Peter, but this is just this has been on my mind for like the past couple of weeks.
Yeah. I got the email. Okay, so let's talk about the first thing, what they're apologizing for. Not the right thing. They're not apologizing for not obtaining the rights, putting their users in this space. They've been banning people, and sometimes their bans are like, they're permanent bans, and you really can't have a hard time fighting it. There was a person that was banned because of a car driving. They were out on the street, car driving behind them. A Kanye song gets played. They're banned. Now ephemeral use could potentially fall, like that. You could have ephemeral use as a case against that if Twitch had even most of the licenses in place, because I mean it's a gray area, but still that's a car going behind you, banned. Okay. And other thing that's an issue, and Devin Nash, and if people want to follow Devin Nash. Devin has a great videos up, has some great videos up talking about where even when Twitch streamers have deleted their VODs, okay, they are still on a Twitch public server. He went in and found that he deleted all his clips and went and found them on the web. And that is also what the labels are and the systems are looking for. So they're still finding the content and striking it. And that's what they're saying is some of these Twitch bans aren't there. Going on, because it's like, but Emmett Shear, the CEO at GlitchCon, which occurred this weekend, very weird keynote address that he did. He's saying that they're coming to like terms like, and the gist of it was saying, and something to say, it's not fair to creators what's happening. Okay. He's talking to his user base, calling them creators. Well, who created the music? Creators. So what he in essence is doing, so Twitch users are saying greedy record labels, greedy, it's like, and the music, like they don't want to pay. It's like, because they don't understand it. And like, is there greed in the record industry? Well, yeah. But he's putting creators versus creators when they're the ones that stirred this up.
That's frustrating. So a little bit of context on something here. Since I've started working at Studio 71 about a year and a half ago, I came from the background of being an artist manager. So everything was artist. And even at the first few months in the role at a company that works predominantly with YouTubers and Instagram influencers, etc., I was still using that as my like default nomenclature, artist. And now it's creator. That's just a fact of the entertainment space that I'm in. It's also, I think, a fact of the shift in the entertainment business at large, is that we are sort of ambiguating what creative output means, and music artists are part of that. Video creators are part of that. Vloggers, photographers. Everybody's a creator. So it's difficult when you're in the position of, CEO of Twitch to say creators and not mean everybody. You certainly can't say creators and mean some of the people, mean your users. You can talk about your users. You can talk about your streamers on Twitch, Twitchers, Instagrammers, TikTokers. You can't talk about creators without including everybody across platforms. And I think there's also the fact of kind of like how outsized the response has been from the record business, because this all came about as a result of like some mass DMCA takedown requests that Twitch kind of just like went ahead and complied with and didn't provide a whole lot of notice. I will give YouTube some credit in that YouTube wants content to stay up because they don't fear the legal battle. They're a public company. They have the licenses. They have a lot of history of doing this. Twitch does not. They're owned by a public company, sure, but they're, you know, still sort of an underdog of sorts in the video entertainment space. So they're still figuring out how they want to handle this. And they handle it in the worst possible way. They handle it, frankly, similarly to how GitHub handled the YouTube DL takedown that the RIAA issued that caused a lot of stuff to break. Legitimate projects, legitimate, archiving projects and data scraping projects by people who own the material they're downloading. But, you know, because it can be used to download music, so it must be piracy only. Because music is streamed in the background of a game or played in the background of a lifestyle streamer, they're distributing music or they're syncing music without a license. I don't buy that argument. I think that's an unfair interpretation. And this is coming from somebody who works every day for independent creators, who works for music rights on platforms like this, who works directly with artists to make sure they get the revenue that they're owed. And I'm saying, like, this is crazy. Frankly, I think Twitch acknowledges that they could have done a better job, but the way that they're framing it is that they could have done a better job to cover their own users at the expense of everyone else. But they still expended their own users, and so they're not going to do anything about that. It's basically like an apology for doing everything wrong, but also not really fully taking responsibility and not promising to do better, just like we could have done better. And there's no clarity as to who actually they should be serving in this.
What's really interesting is, so one of the other emails, I might have been the same email or the one before that, and they talk about the number of takedown notices. And they said they received 50 up until like May, they received about 50 per year. Okay. Well, let's think about that. That's one a week. All right. So
that's not that much.
But then in May, they started getting thousands. And then the avalanche came after Bezos went up, and testified, appeared before Congress. So that opened the door, and the music industry walked in and said, hey, we don't like what we see in your house. So, but the thing is, they say in that email, we didn't expect this. We didn't see this coming, in essence. It's like, and then they're saying, so, they go on to now, the other thing that Twitch streamers are saying is that they released Soundtrack right after they made their first announcement about takedowns and notices. And in the Music Business Worldwide article, it says, in the meantime, we're focused on building tools to better help you manage VODs and clips and providing licensed music options like Soundtrack while we explore all options. So Soundtrack doesn't have all the licensing in place. That's already been found out. But here's the other thing that is so interesting about what Twitch streamers calling this conspiracy, that they're pushing Soundtrack. If you go to Twitch and you go to the terms and conditions and all the legal jargon and the FAQs and everything, and they talk about Twitch music, they have all it in that nice legal template and everything. And then they just added in this paragraph, this section. And basically, it was saying, well, if you have an issue, you can always use Soundtrack. Check out Soundtrack. It's a marketing pitch in the middle of a legal document for people to go and use. I was cracking up when I saw this.
Oh, that's so ham-fisted.
It is, and here's the other thing. Twitch has a communications problem, the way they are talking to their users. They like to throw in this lighthearted, all this like, you're a great person, like, welcome to Twitch. Today's color is purple. Aren't you happy today? And then they'll give you like all this stuff. So they have this condescending tone, and they aren't allowing it's interfering with how to properly address this issue. So so this whole thing is also going on with DMCA, okay? And I also know you were talking about like the senator that is saying like, here's the question: is it time to reform the DMCA?
Well, I think so. I think a lot of people would agree. I think people on both sides of the argument would say that yes, now's the time to reform it. So for those who haven't seen this news, Senator Tom Tillis, who just won his re-election in North Carolina, is going to bat for DMCA reform. Not taking a side quite yet, just kind of making the case that like there's a lot here that seems unfair in a modern economic context. So he's taking public comment from stakeholders and is planning to release a report and some preliminary bill draft language in about a month's time. From the time of this recording. It kind of like rings familiar to me from when Orrin Hatch put his name on the MMA, right? That took a lot of time. It took a lot of effort, a lot of hearings, a lot of debate, certainly, but ultimately was essentially unanimous. I mean, there were, shades of blue that you could argue around, and whether things, there are various parties who have concerns about whether the MLC is backed by Harry Fox or somebody else or an independent consortium or whatever, but nobody argued the fact that it had to exist. And this was necessary to kind of go to the next phase. I think the DMCA reform is part of that. But DMCA is obviously not just music. It's all copyright and the nature of platforms. And we exist in a platform economy now, to the point of even taxi drivers exist on a platform, not in a dispatch system, not in an employment system, apparently. So I think it's going to be hugely impactful to the entertainment economy as we know it today. I think it's going to be a lot of time spent watching that. It's not going to happen very soon. It's good that we're getting the ball rolling. I think it would answer a lot of questions that Twitch feels like they can't answer themselves. I feel like it would help a lot with sort of like the European debate around platforms and copyright responsibility now is being reflected in a conversation that we're having over here. So we're getting kind of a globalized understanding of how rights are exploited and used and monetized, which is a beautiful thing. And it makes a great many people's living possible. We just have to, be honest about how we handle it and not just side on the end of Google and Amazon and Apple and Facebook and say like, well, they just were bought and sold. Can we at least have an intellectually honest conversation on behalf of the creators?
Right. And the whole, one of the things, and this really has a lot to do on the music side as well. And that's what a lot of musicians forget, is that copyright law is for all creators. Mm-hmm. And so that makes it even, more difficult, because then what is a derivative work in painting? What is a derivative work in music? So one of the things is about these takedown notices, and he talks about Section 512 places the burden on copyright owners to identify infringing materials and affirmatively ask the OSP to remove the material or disable access to it. This burden appears to strike the correct balance, but the burden that the notice and takedown system itself places on copyright owners is too heavy. The system is also woefully inefficient for both copyright owners and service providers. I think that's where we are, to bring it full circle, is in this Twitch space.
Well, that was part and parcel of my former job as a project manager at TuneSat, which was a proprietary software developed for the identification of fingerprinted rights. So basically like a content ID system, but built in-house and used for specific clients who were paying for that service to kind of separately scan in addition to what they were already able to get with content ID, which we know is not as fully capable as YouTube would like us to believe. PEX is another great company in this space where they separately scan assets and then go and detect uses. The system as it is, in its most rudimentary form, as it impacted Twitch and as it's been working on Facebook and Instagram until recently, is you fill out a form. The burden is on you to know where the uses are occurring. You fill out all the information, you make your claim. The platform then has to manually review that submission, adjudicate it, and then take action. and they don't necessarily have to do anything more than just take action, which is where a lot of the Twitch creators, got upset, is that they were never notified that this was even coming, and they had no opportunity to address it. But I think the thing that illustrates to me is that the nature of the creator is very heavily influenced at this point by the way that YouTube Content ID works. And so my hope is that other platforms will adapt a similar approach. Not that they'll just rely straightforward on the DMCA takedown notice system that's just very sort of one-sided. Your content comes down, your revenue's impacted, but you can appeal and you can go to court about it if you want. That's up to you, though. That's ridiculous. There has to be a system in place that's arbitrating, and that's what Content ID serves now. And
YouTube, none of those companies want to be the arbitrator. It's like, here's the situation, so where's that third party?
Well, and I'll even separately, scan and identify a use of maybe one of my creators' copyrights, but then go into YouTube to lay that claim or issue that takedown through that automated system. So it's a little bit better managed. And at that point, the creator, the creator of the video that contains my creator's music can then dispute that takedown directly to me and give me their case. It doesn't have to go through YouTube, and then YouTube has to shuttle the message back and forth. They can just communicate directly with me. It's a space where we can do these things literally with the click of a button, as opposed to waiting for emails to come back and forth. That's so necessary. If that's not fundamental to this next wave of DMCA, of content management as a crux of digital economy, then we've completely missed the opportunity.
Yeah.